So how do you go about picking a grout line for your tile? Okay, so another quick video. I just want to talk about grout lines. There's a lot of people that don't seem to understand how to choose a grout line. I'm going to see if I can make this quick so that all those people that complain that my videos are too long, try and make them happy. So anyway, so how do you go about picking a grout line for your tile? Is it something that you just pick out of thin air, or is it something that has some kind of rule that you use to decide what size grout line you're going to use? Well, actually, there is a rule. So to begin, no grout line should be less than a 1/16 of an inch. Doesn't matter what size tile it is, doesn't matter how square it is, doesn't matter whether it's rectified or not rectified. The minimum grout line is a 1/16 of an inch. It's in the TCNA handbook. You can look it up. I'll see if I can get a screenshot of it and include it in this video. So how do you go about picking the right grout line? For this tile here, this is a very, it's like a handmade tile, has a lot of defects in it, has a lot of, it's made to look, it's not actually handmade, but it's made to look like it's handmade, so there's a lot of different variation. So you can see that I have actually a pretty big difference, a pretty big grout line on here. Now these are small tiles, but if you look carefully, you can see that the tiles aren't all exactly the same size. So if you see here, this corner lines up exactly, but these two corners don't. So, and if you look at the wall tile, you can see that the grout lines look pretty even all the way around. Now the reason for that is because I used a slightly bigger grout line. These are about 1/8 of an inch. If I tried to butt these tiles, then I would have had a very uneven line, and it would have looked very, undulating. It wouldn't have looked straight. Now, if I put a level on here, put your level on it, make sure it's perfectly level and perfectly straight. The grout line, that line is going to be straight. So for these tiles here, 1/8 of an inch was appropriate. You could have even gone a little bit bigger, but a 1/16 of an inch would not have worked. So on this floor here, this is a 12 by 24 inch tile, and I have also an 1/8 of an inch grout line on here. Now, why did I go with an 1/8 of an inch grout line and I didn't go with a narrow grout line like a 1/16 of an inch? So there's basically a few different types of tile. There's natural tile, which the sizes of the tiles can vary greatly. There's calibrated tile, and then there's rectified tile. So most of the tiles that you're going to deal with are going to be calibrated or rectified. The natural tiles are like, the handmade ones, the saltito tiles, or all those kind of tiles that handmade and they aren't made by a machine. And they can vary greatly in size. Whereas calibrated tiles, so to understand what a calibrated tile is, so when they make these tiles, what do? They get in the factory, it's a dry pressed powder which has very little water content in it, and they press them and they form them into tiles, and then they fire these tiles and the tiles shrink. So as they shrink, they're not going to shrink all exactly the same size. So when they come out, out of the machines, out of the conveyor belts, they're sorted by size. So they're sorted by caliber. So what does that mean? It means that the tiles have to be within a certain size range to fit a certain caliber. So The tiles are sorted and they're boxed. So when you buy, if you go to a box store and you buy tile, you want to make sure that you look at all the numbers on the boxes and make sure they're all exactly the same. So I have a box, well, the cover of a box right here. So this is for that tile here. And you'll even see on here, it has caliber 5. So you want to make sure that all the boxes, all the numbers match. Different boxes might have different numbers on them, or they might, they might have, they're numbered a different way. But you want to make sure all the numbers match. You want to make sure the dial matches. You want to make sure the caliber matches. And then a lot of times they'll have a gauge on there. The gauge is actually the thickness of the tile, because there can be a variation in the thickness of the tile. So for these calibrated tile, usually you can't do a 1/16 of an inch grout line. It's gonna have to be bigger. And the reason for that is because if let's say a tile, you get a box of tile and the difference in size between the tiles is when you measure them is like a 1/16 of an inch. If you try and do a 1/16 of an inch grout line, what's going to happen? You're going to have some tiles that touch, other tiles that have a much wider grout line. So you need to make that grout line wider so that the center line of the tile averages out. So what does that mean? So if you've got a tile that varies by a 1/16 of an inch, the size of the grout line is supposed to be 3 times the difference of the average size of the tile. So if they vary by a 1/16 of an inch, that means your grout line is supposed to be 3/16 of an inch. A lot of people don't like the wider grout lines. I know that. But so you're going to have to make a choice on if you want your grout lines to be straight, or if you want your grout lines to be uneven and have a narrow grout line. Do it the proper way and just do a wider grout line. There are many kinds of grouts today that have very good stain resistance. Okay, so I talked about calibrated tiles. Now, what are rectified tiles? So rectified tiles are tiles that have been fired and then they're run through a machine to square off the edges and to make them square. And usually a rectified tile will be very even in size. The difference in size between the tiles will vary very little, and usually a rectified tile can have a narrower grout line. So you can have the 1/16 of an inch grout line. You don't want to do a grout line any smaller than a 1/16 of an inch. That is the minimum recommended grout line size according to the TCNA. So does that always mean that rectified tiles are going to be perfectly the same size? Well, most of the time, yeah, but sometimes you can get a lower quality manufacturer or whatever, and you can still have a variation in the size of the rectified tiles. It all goes to the quality of the tile. So, and that goes to another point. Why buy a good quality tile? Well, a good quality tile is going to have better quality control. The calibers are going to be closer together. You're going to have a tighter tolerance. They're going to be flatter. It's just going to be a nicer tile. If you want to buy a cheap tile, then you're going to have to sacrifice quality somewhere, and usually that is in the caliber. You're going to get a lot of different sizes. The tile won't be as good as a quality tile. Okay, so I'm going to cut it short here. And so just remember, the grout line size is determined by the tile and not by the desire that you have for a narrow grout line. Best thing to do when you're trying to pick a grout size is to lay down a few tiles dry and see how they run, and check to see if it'll work with the grout line that you want. So anyway, don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notification bell, and check the description for lots of links to tools and other stuff that I have available. Thanks for watching.